Okay, folks, welcome to it. You're listening to VSiN's Pro Football Betting Podcast stream, and this specific episode, as you probably already know, is Prop Shelf, meaning I go over my top props for some of the biggest games throughout the National Football League. And for Thursday night, well, we've got this game featured with the Browns and the Steelers, a good old AFC North matchup. Sure to be fun, sure to be ugly, especially because those wind conditions. Oof, 20 miles per hour, quite the impact for this game. And that not only impacts just the outright outlook of the game, but especially throughout these propositions. Tricky ones to look at. All right. And remember, when we're doing this, it's quality over quantity. And if you want the sides, you want the totals, you want other best bets, make sure you check out the full game preview with Matt Humans and myself, giving out best bets for that and a little bit of a teaser for the Sunday slate of games. But getting into this with some of these props, first thing that stands out to me, knowing both of these offenses, especially on the side of Cleveland, the weather conditions, 20-mile-per-hour winds, going to be tough to throw the ball. Where does that lead us to? The running backs. Nick Chubb is the premier running back for Cleveland. That's completely understood. The issue with Nick Chubb in this game is I don't see a lot of value. The number's inflated because he gets utilized so often. And it's not to say I want to bet the under because he could easily just soar over it, but I don't think that's a good advantage as a bettor. Where you may get a better bang for your buck lies with Kareem Hunt, who's still getting a lot of workload, just not as much as Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt's rushing yards props vary anywhere from 42.5 up to 45.5. His rush attempts, the best number if you want to go to the over, 9.5. The over is minus $1.40. If you think he gets involved in the passing game, receptions number 2.5, over about plus 115. His receiving yards number, if you want to go over, the lowest number I saw in the state of Illinois is 15.5. Now, each lead receiving back that has faced the Steelers thus far has gone over 15.5 receiving yards. And if it's a difficult situation for Jacoby Persette to throw the ball, maybe he has some comfort and security doing the short checkdowns to a guy like Kareem Hunt, who typically is utilized in those type of situations as opposed to Nick Chubb. So yeah, looking at this game, I'm not as enticed to go with Kareem Hunt over his rushing yards. Maybe Nick Chubb just really carries that workload. And rush attempts 9.5. Yeah, Hunt's gone over that in both games this season with 11 at Carolina and 13 against the Jets. But I don't know. Again, this could be completely all on Nick Chubb. And where Kareem Hunt may be utilized more efficiently is going to be in the passing game because of those reasons I stated. The passing's probably going to come pretty seldom for Jacoby Persette overall, but especially in this type of game. And if you want to have those safer passes, Kareem Hunt is quite the dynamic guy to throw it to. He'll be out there to run the ball, but he can also kill you with the screens and he can kill you with those checkdowns. So that's why over 2.5 receptions is very tempting. He got 4 at Carolina in week 1 and then 2 for 16 yards in week 2 versus the Jets. By the way, 24 receiving yards at Carolina in week 1. Receiving yards prop is at 15.5. Pittsburgh has allowed 102 rushing yards and 58 receiving yards per game to the running back position. Overall, though, Pittsburgh, DVOA-wise, they're 18th against the run. Not great. They're allowing 4 yards per carry and 128.5 rushing yards per game overall. In terms of the passing effort, 10.2 yards per completion. Man, this one's really tough. Because of how strong of a usage you get out of Chubb, it makes it difficult to back Kareem Hunt here. But I do believe the Browns will be leading, and thus maybe we'll be giving more opportunities for Kareem Hunt if they don't want to stress Nick Chubb later in the game, once they maybe have that comfortable lead. And maybe just in the overall thought process of this being a shorter week, your star running back Nick Chubb needs more time to rest. So that could get more usage for Kareem Hunt. I'm going to circle back on this one the closer we get to kickoff. And if I do end up playing it, like I always list them, make sure you check out VSiN's Best Bets log page. But strongly considering Kareem Hunt over 15.5 receiving yards, I feel a little bit more confident on that one than I do over 2.5 receptions. But you are getting value to the price, plus 115 or so to over 2.5 receptions. But I think Hunt could absolutely get involved in this short passing game. So maybe consider him over 15.5 receiving yards. And then moving along, folks, speaking of running backs, we can't not talk about Naji Harris. He's been struggling out of the gates, to say the least. 10 carries, 23 yards at Cincinnati, then 15 carries and just 49 yards against the Patriots. People are criticizing him because his vision hasn't been that good. He's not hitting the proper holes, and his cutbacks have not been as elite as we were kind of accustomed to last year with Harris. Well, we have seen quite the adjustment in his rushing yards prop. 52.5 is the number. And his rushing attempts is 13.5. Now, they're making you pay a pretty penny for the rushing attempts, about minus 160 to minus 170. He did get 15 against the Patriots, but only 10 against Cincinnati. Man, I mean, this could be one of those spots where you could really take advantage of shorter prices on Naji Harris. Simultaneously, we don't really know what to expect out of this offense. What we should expect is a tough performance out of Mitch Trubisky because overall he has trouble having accuracy issues. But now with this wind being implemented and being such a force, they may really utilize Harris either on the ground game. But if he can't get that going, once again, the shorter passes, more security and comfort, dump it off to Naji Harris in the passing game. 2.5 receptions to the over, even though you're laying about minus 169, I think was the best price I did see. Man, that just looks like a good price right there. Not price in terms of the odds, but in terms of the actual number of receptions. He got 5 last game versus the Patriots and 2 in the first game against the Bengals. But again, the weather may dictate how this offense flows. And Harris went over this mark both games last year against the Browns, got 3 in each. 15.5 receiving yards, minus $130. He got 40 receiving yards against the Patriots last week. That's the type of offense you get out of Trubisky. The short, easy throws so he doesn't have to stress himself and risk getting an interception and killing his narrative and his starting position. And again, I can't state it enough. The wind will make Trubisky look for those safer routes. Harris over 2.5 receptions and or over 15.5 receiving yards. Also very, very tempting. Not an official play. Not an official play for Hunt in that spot either, but I just want to list these out for you guys because even though I may not be there officially, I still think these could be advantageous. And if you have more conviction in it than I do, then Godspeed, and hopefully I can lead you in that direction. But it's quality over quantity, and there's still a little bit unknowns in both offenses. So that is why ultimately I'm not officially playing it, but very strong leans, and I still want to dish them out, like I said. Still think it could be a good look if you have more appreciation for it than I do. By the way, Browns defense DVOA-wise, they're 22nd overall, 24th in the passing game, and then 20th in the run. Now, the Browns only allowed 33 rushing yards to McCaffrey and 50 rushing yards to Hall on the Jets, and then 23 to Carter. So maybe you don't look at the rushing yards for Harris, but you could look at those receiving yards because McCaffrey did get 4 catches for 24 yards, and then 27 receiving yards on 5 catches to Michael Carter. So that could be the move to make. And plus, Cleveland is allowing 12 yards per completion, which is 30th in the NFL. All the way toward the bottom, folks. So, hey, if you do want to do something with Naji Harris, which I still might do. Again, I still might get there. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's Wednesday afternoon. We still got time. But I'm really keeping my eye on Naji Harris over 2.5 receptions and or over 15.5 receiving yards, minus 130. Because look, he could get 2 receptions and get you 20 receiving yards and you're good. And then you're paying less of a price at the minus 130 for just the receiving yards as opposed to the minus 169 on receptions. So yeah, maybe over his receiving yards is a little bit of a safer play because of the cheaper price and because it may just take less to get there. You never know. But I'm strongly considering Harris over 15.5 receiving yards. Let's move on to another prop in the passing game. How about David Njoku? 2.5 is his receptions number for this game. Now, against the Panthers, Njoku was targeted just 1 time and made the catch for just 7 yards. Well, then they made him more of a priority against the Jets. 5 targets, 3 receptions, 32 receiving yards. What's interesting here is that Harrison Bryant, the other tight end for Cleveland, has actually been targeted 8 times, and Njoku just 6 times. Is that something that's going to be a consistent trend, or is that kind of a fluke? Bryant's a little bit banged up heading into this game. We got to monitor his status because if he's a go, I think Njoku under 2.5 receptions could absolutely be a smart play. Not only has Bryant been targeted more than Njoku, but the Steelers are defending tight ends very, very well this year thus far. 3 receptions per game for just 24 receiving yards. Again, if Bryant is healthy, I don't know. Clearly, Persette has a little bit more adoration for him. It's a small sample size, but one that maybe we can take advantage of here with Njoku under 2.5 receptions. Not only because of the Bryant situation, but because, again, bad wind that is going to force Cleveland to want to run the ball. And heck, let's be honest, they want to run the ball anyways with the dynamic duo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So Njoku may not see a lot of reps in this game. Let's wait to see what the status is of Bryant, and if he's good to go, you might be able to count me in for Njoku under 2.5 receptions. But again, make sure you're checking out VSiN's Best Bets log page for the official plays. Final one to go over. And I'm smiling here because this one does bring some joy to my face. Not necessarily in a good way, I guess. I don't know. Maybe not even joy. It's just kind of comical to talk about it. Mitch Trubisky versus Jacoby Persette. Who will have more passing yards? This seems like an ugly one to get involved with because of all the reasons I stated, with the weather conditions, with Jacoby Persette loving to run the ball. I mean, that Browns offense loving to run the ball. And we can't trust Mitch Trubisky even when there's no wind. But I honestly think this could actually be a decent bet on the side of Trubisky, minus $130. If you do want to go with Persette, plus 108's the best number I saw out there in Illinois. Look, let's go over the numbers. Trubisky, 21 of 38, 194 passing yards versus the Bengals. 21 of 33, 168 in the air versus the Patriots. Not good. Not good at all, folks. Persette, 18 of 34 for 147 yards in one game, and then 22 of 27 against the Jets, 229 yards. The first game was against the Panthers, by the way. For Trubisky, where does the advantage lie in this bet? Well, I think it lies in the fact that Harris has been struggling on the ground. They'll probably be trailing and needing to pass the ball, and you're going up against a Browns secondary that's allowing 12 yards per catch, which once again ranks 30th. And Baker was able to throw 235 against the Browns. Flacco threw for 307. Heck, why couldn't Trubisky? Maybe he can get past the wind. But the odds are favoring Trubisky. Can we get enough conviction to actually trust Trubisky to outperform someone with passing yards? Well, if there's a time to do it, it's got to be this one. Persette, he could have that 147-yard passing type of game that we saw against the Panthers. Let Chubb, let Kareem Hunt do the work for you. That may be their philosophy here. Now, Joe Burrow did throw 338 against the Steelers secondary. And then Mac Jones even tossed up 252. So if Persette and company want to pass it, they probably won't have any issues. But I don't think they'll need to stress that. I think it'll be sufficient enough with Chubb and Hunt, and then Persette won't really need to throw it. A lot of juice is coming, or rather, a lot of steam is coming to the under completions and pass attempts for Persette in the first place. And then you're seeing Trubisky's passing yards actually with some of these metrics show some affiliation to the over. I don't know. Maybe Trubisky can outperform him here. Again, look, folks, not that I'm actually going to lay the Trubisky one, but if you're someone who doesn't have that past history with him, being a Bears fan, and knowing how much he can disappoint, you're a tad bit more objective than I am, even though we always got to try to be objective. Trubisky to outperform Persette with the passing yards could also be a play you could look forward to, just because of what we think this flow is going to be. The Browns will be leading. The running game will be stuck in the mud with Naji Harris as it's been the first 2 games. And Mitch will have to throw the ball, and he could pad those stats in garbage time in the fourth quarter. Could be enough to overcome Jacoby Persette and his passing yards. So those are the props that I'm considering for Thursday Night Football, folks. And hey, even if I don't play them, again, the point here is to lead you to a spot that you feel comfortable betting. Just throwing out some of these numbers and where the advantages may lie. Just because I don't play it officially doesn't mean I don't see it as a good bet. If you have enough confidence to get it there, then go for it, and best of luck, folks. But those are the most intriguing props that I think have probably the best info surrounding it to give you an advantage based on the numbers that are offered. Let me know if you've got anything else in the prop market that you're liking. Feel free to tweet at me at DannyBurke5. But once again, make sure you check out the episode with Matt Humans and myself, because we're going over the sides, we're going over the totals, our best bets for this game, and then we're looking at Survivor contest strategies and a little bit of a sneak early preview for the whole slate on Sunday. So make sure you check it out. Also available on VSiN's Pro Football Betting Podcast stream. Take care, folks, and best of luck with whatever you are betting this Thursday night.